Okay, welcome to the 2013-2014 Public Sector Energy Efficiency Incentive webinar, and this is part 2, which is about filling out the incentive application. My name is Holly Nelson, and I'm here with my colleague Scott Pickard. We are the implementation coordinators at the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center at the University of Illinois. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our organization in case you aren't familiar with us. CDEC is an applied research group at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign working in collaboration with the 360 Energy Group and the Energy Resources Center at the University of Illinois at Chicago. We provide advice and analysis to help increase the economic viability of both private and public facilities through efficient use of energy resources.
Hi, I'm Scott Pickard. In Part 2, we'll walk you through some examples of filling out the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities Illinois Energy Now incentive application. We'll also highlight the current promotions and talk about some case studies that show how energy efficiency projects can have a positive impact on your agency. If you want to hear more about the types of incentives offered, watch the archived video of the Part 1 presentation.
As we mentioned in the announcement for this webinar, this presentation is geared towards public sector agencies such as schools, local governments, public universities, community colleges, and state or federal agencies, and those who do energy efficiency work with those agencies. If you work with a nonprofit organization or a business, you do not qualify for these incentives. However, the utility companies offer very similar incentive programs. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions.
To give you a little background, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities energy efficiency programs are funded through a rider on the electric and natural gas bills of all customers whose energy is delivered by Ameren, Illinois, ComEd, Nicor Gas, Peoples Gas, and North Shore Gas. This energy efficiency rider was added based on Illinois legislation for electric demand reduction in 2007 and natural gas saving goals set in 2009. Part of the funding goes toward energy efficiency incentives. Each of the utilities offer incentives to their private and nonprofit customers, and DCEO administers the incentives for the public sector, called the Illinois Energy Now program. All of us are already paying for these incentives, so I would really encourage you to take advantage of them. Another part of the funding goes toward energy efficiency programs like CDEC that can help organizations plan for the future.
Before we get into the heart of the application, we'd like to mention the exciting promotions DCEO is offering during this funding cycle. Many of the natural gas incentives were doubled from their values at the start of the last program year. This actually occurred in January 2013, and many of you may have heard about it. We are happy to announce that these rates have been extended until the end of the program year. DCEO has also just released the details for the Hinge Bonus for high-impact natural gas efficiency. Projects that save 50,000 therms annually can receive $4 per therm, and projects that save 100,000 therms annually can receive $5 per therm, up to 90% of the project cost. Pre-approval applications for Hinge are due September 30th, 2013, and the work must be completed by May 15th, 2014. If you aren't able to take advantage of the Hinge bonus, you may still be eligible for either of the DCEO Sweet Deal bonuses, where you can get a 10% bonus on projects completed by October 31st, 2013, and if you miss that, you can get a 5% bonus on projects completed by February 14th, 2014. Those bonuses apply to the incentives offered in the standard and custom incentive programs and the boiler tune-up programs.
To give you a feel for the incentive structure, DCEO offers standard incentives for lighting, heating and air conditioning, kitchen, and other equipment. For these measures, you just fill in some basic information about the items, and the forms will automatically calculate the incentive for you. You can also apply for a custom project, which is based on the estimated amount of energy you'll save. A free CDEC audit can help you determine the estimated savings for a custom project if your contractor is not able to provide that information. The boiler tune-up program has a separate application.
So let's dive into the application. Filling out a DCEO application is actually pretty easy, and we're here to help you if you have any questions. The application for 2013-2014 is a fillable PDF. Make sure you get the forms directly from the DCEO website because revisions may occur during the course of the year. I am going to escape out of the presentation and pull up the actual application so I can walk you through it a little bit. This is the cover, and the beginning has some general information about eligibility, the application process, and some program contact information. You can contact us if you have questions, but you can also directly contact DCEO. There's an email address and phone numbers. One of the things I really like is the handy application checklist. You can actually check off on here when you complete various steps of the application, and it tells you exactly what you need for the pre-approval application and the final application. So part 1 of the application is just some general information, what type of agency you are, who the contact persons are, when you started and plan to complete the project, your utility company, and how much the project cost. Section 2 is where the authorized official would sign the application and provide the financial information for the payment. Section 3 lists the submittal requirements and how to electronically submit it or submit it by mail. And then Section 4 is one of the most important pages. That's where you put in the information about the individual building or facility. So I will actually do a little demonstration of that here. Example, school 1, address, and then you also have to have the electric and gas utility account numbers and meter numbers just to prove that you are working with an eligible utility. Below that section, you'll see a little box highlighted yellow where you would choose the actual type of project that you have. And at this point, the application is only 16 pages long. But if we go ahead and check lighting, for example, all of a sudden, the application has 22 pages because it added those extra pages. That way you don't have to keep flipping through tons of extra pages that you don't need if you're only working on lighting, for example. And then another thing that's really useful is this button here below. I have another facility to add. And if you check that box, it's going to generate another page. So now there's a page 17. And we could put in example school 2 if we were a school district and we were doing projects at 2 different schools. So I'm going to delete this page because we don't need it right now. Alright, so let's go back and look at some of these pages. The lighting section is one of the most common types of applications. And here's the basic lighting incentive worksheet. This page lists most of the incentives that are offered. There's also a second page which has some of the new fixtures. Most of the ones on the first page are retrofits, like if you're replacing an old fixture with a higher efficiency fixture. And this second page would be if you're adding completely new fixtures in some place where you didn't have them before. So let's do an example real quick here. A really common retrofit would be taking a 4-foot T12 fixture and changing it to a T8 fixture. And the incentive is $13 per lamp. So if we had 100 lamps, you just type that in the little box, and it shows us that we're going to get $1,300 in incentives. And in general, most of the fields that you need to fill out are yellow. And you'll also see at the top that some of that information I entered in on the previous page is automatically copied into there, so you don't have to type in the school name on every sheet. So then also for lighting projects, you have to fill out a light survey. And you'll see at the top there's a couple of example rows. So if you're changing, the first one is 4-foot 34-watt T12s. That was the same example I had on the other page. But this time it's just for 2 fixtures, and each fixture has 2 lamps. Then there's boxes for the existing wattage, and it'll automatically calculate the total existing wattage. And then in this blue section for retrofitting T12 to T8, then we're putting in 4 new T8 lamps. And over here on the right, if you have occupancy sensors, you would put those in as well. There's also a lighting survey for new light fixtures if you're adding fixtures to a place where you didn't have them before. And then there's a couple pages of specifications. You can see each type of retrofit is really only a paragraph of specifications. It's not too complicated. But this is where you'll find the product lists. If you need most of the lighting, you need to check and make sure that it's on a qualified product list. And there's a couple of different ones that they use depending on which type of fixture it is. Okay, so let's just take a look at these other sections real briefly. We won't go into quite so much detail. But heating and air conditioning is a great thing to do. And this one is fairly simple. They list different types of systems. So there's like a section up at the top for air conditioners and package terminal air conditioners or heat pumps. Some natural gas equipment like furnaces and boilers. And you'll see that each item has a code. And then depending on the size, it may have a different efficiency. So if we were putting in a natural gas boiler, and it has an average fuel efficiency of 90%, I'm going to choose this GH5 code and put in the boiler model here. Our unit efficiency, we got a really good boiler. It has an efficiency of 94%. And let's say that this is 600 BTUH or 600 kBTUH boiler or 600 MBH boiler. We're just going to put in 1. So once I fill in all those fields, it'll multiply the numbers, and that tells us that we're going to get an incentive of $8,400 for our 600 MBH boiler at 94% efficiency. And then there's also incentives for HVAC tune-up to reduce reheat and ground source heat pumps on this next page. and specifications again.